Hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Olson with Deep River Mental Health Fund. And if you've been watching my channel, you'll know that I do a video every week or so about different elements of being a caregiver uh, for a mentally ill loved one, and sometimes just about mental illness in general. And a lot of this is contributed from 14 years of my experience in dealing with and loving a daughter who was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, and basically my journey in taking care of her and dealing with all of the circumstances that come with being a caregiver. I also do quite a bit of volunteer work with NAMI of Utah. And again, I've got a nonprofit organization that I've started, and I'll have the URL up at the end of this uh, video. But it's called Deep River Mental Health Fund, and essentially we're just raising money and awareness for those people who cannot afford mental health care. It's a chance for us to provide them with the resources and money they need. So hopefully you check that out. And also, please like and subscribe. I do a lot of this from my heart. I'm not in it to make money. I'm in it just simply to share what I've experienced and some of the insights I've had over the years. So please take a moment, just hit that subscribe button. A little thumbs up would be good. And leave a comment. I always like reading the comments. So today, we're going to be talking about what I call the broken mirror of self-awareness. And we're going to be chatting specifically about a condition known as anosognosia. So the best way to approach this is start out with just kind of a rhetorical statement. So I want you to think in your own lives, what if someone told you that they could dance, but their legs were completely paralyzed? Not metaphorically and not as denial, but that their legs were physically paralyzed and they still said that they could dance. So, and they would do this with complete unshakable confidence. They thought they could do it, but there was just no way. So they don't feel delusional. They don't feel confused. So to them, the problem isn't them, it's everyone else that's mistaken. You ever had anything like that? I have. So who's right when reality itself isn't shared? So the first thing, and again, what we're with anosognosia, we're talking about people who are ill but don't think they're ill. And like in the case of the dancer with paralyzed legs, they don't think they're paralyzed. They still think there's a chance there they should be able to dance. So the first thing we want to talk about with this is setting the paradox and also in defining anosognosia, just what it is. So what we just described is a very unsettling phenomena in neuroscience and psychology. A person can lose the ability to move a limb or lose vision in their half of the world, yet insist with total certainty that nothing is wrong. And some people call it denial, but in their world, they totally believe it. This isn't ordinary denial. It's not just, I'm going through a phase. It's not being stubborn, and it isn't a psychological defense mechanism in the normal sense. It's something a lot stranger. And I don't know if you've ever heard the word anosognosia before, but we're going to talk about that. So what we're talking about is this condition where, like I said, not ordinary denial. They totally believe that they're okay when they're really not. So anosognosia, at its core, it's not just a refusal to accept illness or injury or paralysis, or whatever the case may be, but it's a neurological condition where the brain loses the ability to recognize that it is impaired. So it's a physical condition. And In other words, it's not, I don't want to see the problem. It's, I physically cannot perceive that there's a problem at all. They just can't surrender to that. The brain's self-monitoring system, the system that updates your internal model of me and what you are, has broken. And the result is a mind that operates with outdated or incomplete information about itself. So I want you to, for a minute, imagine your brain as a mirror. And most of us rely on that mirror constantly. We adjust when we're tired. We notice when we're not feeling well. We update our sense of self in real time, who you are, where you are, how you feel. But in anosognosia, that mirror is cracked and it's not functioning correctly. And what's worse is it doesn't look cracked to the person holding it. So, as we mentioned a minute ago about the dancer, a patient with paralysis may genuinely believe that they're moving normally. A person with blindness in one field of vision may swear that they can see everything clearly. They're not lying and they're not resisting truth. They're living inside of a broken feedback system or a cracked mirror, if you will. Now, the conflict happens with the caregiver. Imagine being a caregiver over a person who is suffering from anosognosia. You're standing in a shared reality. You can see the impairment clearly. You can measure it, prove it, and demonstrate it, but the person in front of you rejects it completely. And a lot of times this anosognosia is what leads people to not want to take their medication, especially in the case of antipsychotic drugs or medication for depression or whatever the case may be. They don't think they're depressed. They don't think there's a mental health issue. You see it and they really do not. And it's not just denial. As we said, they're living in a broken feedback system. So to them, you are the one that's wrong. And this creates just an absolute devastating barrier, not just medical, but relational. The instructions are refused, therapies are resisted, and safety becomes impossible to guarantee. Because how do you treat an illness that the patient can't even perceive? Well, and this is really what makes anosognosia so profound. It reveals something unsettling about consciousness itself. Self-awareness is not guaranteed, as we see in the slide. The mind does not always correctly observe its own condition. It's almost like you don't see yourself as others see you. That perception of self is just, it's broken. And that knowing yourself depends on fragile neural systems and can fail without warning. And when they do, reality splits, not into hallucination versus truth, but into two incompatible truths experienced at the same time. So when we think about awareness, illness, and even identity, we're forced to confront a difficult question. If your brain is the thing that tells you who you are, what happens when it stops telling the truth? And I highly recommend talking to your therapist, your counselor, psychologist about this. It is treatable. It is just really difficult. This is usually what leads people, and I know in my life with my daughter, refusing to take their medication. Why do they want to take medication when they don't feel like there's anything wrong with them? Why would a person with paralysis not feel like they could just get up and run a marathon? So it's not just convincing them. And this is what leads to a lot of breakdowns in family units because there are arguments, because you see it, but they don't. And so you try to convince them to see things the way you see them. But again, in their mind, they're using this broken feedback system where they cannot perceive this. And as I said to them, you're the one that's wrong, not them. So sometimes, and there's a quote I'll end with here. Sometimes the most dangerous blindness is the one that insists that it can still see. So, anosognosia, if you're experiencing it, you're not the only one. It is a real condition and it's treatable. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not going to make those recommendations. Simply to have you consult your therapist, your professionals, and talk about it. And by all means, don't don't blame your loved one for what they're feeling, because in their world, they totally don't see it. And so there's some great books out there. I'll put it in the comments. But there's a great book called I'm Not Sick and I Don't Need Help. And it's a great book for those of you that are experiencing this with a loved one that they just don't see it. They don't want to take the medication when you know that the medication will help them. It's a great book that can take you through it. Again, it's called I'm Not Sick and I Don't Need Help. And you can go over to Amazon and look it up. But like I said, I'll put a link to it in the comments afterwards. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. I tried not to make it as long. And check out my website, deeprivermentalhealth.com, and check out what we're all about. It's a great nonprofit that we started just about 6 months ago, and trying to get the word out on it and get some support. So I appreciate all of you for listening to me, for watching the videos. Recommend me to your friends, and I'd really appreciate it. Again, have a great day and good luck with your challenges.